All right, before I start with the buttons, I want to show you, I don't know if you can see this. This is Savage Garden Green, which is like a forest green. There's like a little yellow discoloration through here, and that's just the mica needs to be mixed in. Now what I've discovered, some of the soap dough will come discolored. Oranges and greens will come discolored, but once you mix it in, you can't see. It just goes away. It's just about the morphing process is what I've discovered. So let me zip through this and then you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so, and here's another thing. You all probably know this, but it's brought to my attention quite a few times, is sometimes the soap dough is a bit hard. You just have to warm it up. And because I'm working with the polymer clay, I realized another thing is that there's a thing in polymer clay, they talk about conditioning your soap. Conditioning your clay. And the conditioning of your clay is just what we do, is just mush it and mash it and soften it and bring the moisture to the foreground so that it can, move through all of it. So when you get your soap, sometimes if it's cold or the outside might have dried a bit, depending on how old it is. Not from me, but like say you bought it and left it. You're going to have to condition your soap dough. I'm going to start using that term now and translate it from the polymer clay world. So I'm educating myself and learning more techniques. Anyway, you can see that I'm putting quite a bit of effort on here, and this doesn't feel, to me, doesn't feel any different. As a matter of fact, there's some clay that I've purchased that is like a rock, and I can work it through, but I prefer not to. So there's different types of clay, and so what I tried to do with the soap dough is make hit the median. So it's a combination of soft and hard, and it can't be too sticky, it can't be too hard, you can't use it. And so instead of having different textures of soap dough, I just did the one that I found to be the most useful, and you can see it's not sticky. So anyway, you probably already know that. So So for my idea of keeping the buttons, or wrapping the buttons around the bar of soap, I'm going to need to keep this pliable. So I was thinking about keeping it in plastic, and occasionally, I just moved that. Naturally, I moved this camera out of my way so I could get to this. Anyway, I was thinking about keeping it in plastic to keep it pliable and wrap it around. But we'll see where it all goes. If I can get, if I make it today, then I think it'll be reasonable. And then I'll have an example of the soap to show you. So I'm putting a piece of plastic, I'm putting a piece of plastic over top of this because I want softer edges. I don't want really sharp edges. So you don't need to use the plastic if you don't want to, but I like the softer edges to it. So, and you don't really need a ton of equipment to make these. However, there's some tools that'd be useful to accomplishing it in the way that I do it. And I've made these with, anything random, like you could have a cup, you could use these. And you could just have anything that you can poke a hole in the center, and if you do that through the plastic, you're going to have a softer edge. But I happen to have these are my go-to. I've showed you these many times. So let's make a really big cookie. Now I don't make soap cookies this big. Here, I'll show you. That's how big this one is. I don't usually make them this big because they break. So I usually make them about this big. Let's see, what's the measurement of those? That is 2.5 inches, because those fit pretty nicely in the palm of your hand when you're using it to actually wash with. But today I'm going to make one bigger like this, and plus they look a little bit better on camera. And so we'll just push that through. I'll make a couple different sizes. And so the edges are a little bit softer. Right, like that, okay. And plus I'm making Christmas, so that's why I'm using this Savage Green. And let's do one more. I think I could fit one there. Okay, and that way if I make any mistakes, I'll have a couple to show you. Okay, making a lot of noise, I know. Okay, so the other thing that's gonna, well, I'll get to that in a second, but let's do this. So I wanna make buttonholes in these, and so I purchased these clay things, again, from the clay world, which I'm learning tons of things about. I purchased these little cutters, because I have some, but I just didn't have the right size. So I'm gonna make big ones for this. Let's see if I could figure this out. Let's see. We want them about here. All right. You don't have to be precise with this at all. I'm just trying to keep them level. Because I've gone through and made tons of soap cookies like this. And then if you want to make them really big, you can back them with another piece of soap too. Just make the same cookie and do it over again. So let's see. This guy, that might be too big for this one. I want him to look more like a buttonhole, or a button, a proper button. I can see that this one's off a bit, so. Hey, that's a better, well, that's too close now, but that might be a better, nah, that's not good. We don't like that, do we? No. All right, let me do it by feel. This is how I generally do it. And that looks a lot better. Trying to measure things goes against my nature, I think. Okay, so there is that. And then these little buttons come off, and those can be useful for something as well. I mean, do you remember those candies that, well, you may or may not be my age, but those candies, as I was a kid, there's these little sugar dots, they're called, and you could put them, let me show you, you could put them, they were on a strip of paper. I never got them. I always wanted them, and I saw kids at school with them. I wasn't allowed to have them for some reason. I thought that was the weirdest thing. But these could be useful for something. I'm not sure what yet. But there's been plenty of times that I've found these little shapes and then been inspired to do something else with them. So I will save them for now. My landlord just showed up. He said that he was coming for a couple of really super awesome human being, by the way. Very, very awesome. It's nice to live in a place where people appreciate that you're there. Just that little bit. Anyway, okay, on to another note. So yeah, so this guy is a little bit sideways, but he's going to be okay for the example. And I'll wrap my soap dough up so I can save it. Okay. So the other thing that, so what I wanted to do, because you can see how thin they are, but these are going on a soap. That one is not okay, so we're not going to use that one anyway. But the idea is that I want to show you like every little step that I do in order to get to this point. Okay. So I have an, oh, just make a whole bunch of noise. Here's an extruder, and the extruder discs, they come with this big one and they come with this little one. So this little one's going to be perfect for this right here. So for me, well, okay, there's a couple things. For one, it's theoretically nicer to back these with another piece of soap dough the same size, because then they're more solid. Now you can't do that until you make the holes in here. So I just stick it through and make the holes. Now you can clean this up. If you make these thicker, it doesn't matter if there's the holes or not, but it's because they're so thin. Now I'm not going to make these for soap cookies, but I am going to put those on top of a soap. And now the question would be, do I want the color of the soap coming through on this? I don't know yet, but that is a good question. So in these little cutters that I just showed you, those I got on Etsy for like $6. And I have a little green in there I can see. Okay, so there's that. And then as an example, and it comes out kind of sideways, depends on the pressure of the soap inside. So some buttons are sewed like this, right? So maybe I'll produce the bar. See, this is the first time, again, if you listen to the other video, this is the first time I've ever told anybody the process of my plan of making the soap. So that's kind of new behavior for me. We'll see if I can do it. I mean, I have all the tools in my toolbox. We'll just see if I put myself in the right space to do it, because you know, use kind of a safe fragrance oil so they don't have to contend with that. So there's that. Now, yeah, these have to be straightened out. So there's that option, and then let me show you the big one. See what that looks like. So I'm going to post this video for this week, even though, wow, that's very thick, isn't it? Even though I'm not going to have the soap done for this video, just so you can get a handle on the, is that going to fit in there? So you can get a handle on the process of making soap button cookies or soap buttons. Now this could be scaled, or you know, this could be bigger. I've made little buttons too, and you don't even need a round one to make a button, because there's heart-shaped buttons. I made a, now that one I can show you because I've already made it. You can make make buttons of all types of shapes. So I made heart buttons in the same way. Oh, here's the other thing. I totally forgot about this part. Okay. I'll show you. I still can do it because it's soft and pliable. There. So that is a nice big ribbon for sure. Okay, so let me show you the other part too. Okay, so there's a point. So these look fine, and I was wondering why they weren't looking the way I want them to look. So these look fine, but buttons have like a little ring around them. So you want to be able to put that ring, and that helps me. I forgot about that because that helps me know where to put the buttonholes. So I push in here, but I don't push too deeply because I don't want to cut all the way through. And so, let's see, will that fit? Yeah, that one will fit too. So that's the sharp edge. The dull edge is a little bit harder because to use it in that capacity, because yeah, that's not going to work, but the sharp edge will work. There. Okay, so let's put this guy on here, right there.